Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Brickazoid's Den. This is a very special episode of my Adventure Time kind of season episode rankings for every season because we're actually not doing Season 8 today, like I talked about in Season 7. Season 7 contains the mini-series Stakes, based on the character Marceline and all that, and all different vampires. So I thought I'd rank all 8 parts to this mini-series. And yeah, I thought that's what I would do today, just to kind of extend this series a little bit longer because I really do enjoy making these videos. So I'm going to try and keep it around for as long as I possibly can. And I thought Stakes in the miniseries would be a good way to do it. So we're gonna get into Stakes, man. We're gonna get into Stakes. So there are 8 episodes in this miniseries, and for number 8 on the list here, we have Part 6, Take Her Back. This episode is when the team fought the vampire, the Moon character. And yeah, compared to all the other ones, I wasn't too crazy about this one, honestly. Most of it was like Finn and Jake looking around and then them running from the Moon, who's like one of the powerful vampire characters. And then Marceline and Princess Bubblegum hiding after Marceline is given like some sort of serum, I believe, that will give her vampire powers back, I think is what it was. I think it was. That's what it was. And Marceline was kind of like unable to do anything this whole episode, really. So she had to stay in with Princess Bubblegum. So Finn and Jake had to take on the Moon. But this was like a good little Finn and Jake episode, kind of, for the Stakes miniseries, because a lot of it is Marceline and stuff like that. But yeah, Take Her Back, just like, it wasn't terrible. It was still enjoyable to watch. But just compared to the other ones here, I think that the other ones are obviously better than this one. So I'm going to put Part 6 of Stakes, Take Her Back, at number 8. Alright, number 7 on the list here, we have Part 4, The Empress Eyes. Now this one is very cool because it's Ice King. Ice King's in this episode. The Empress, who goes to the Ice Kingdom, that vampire character, who has the power of to hypnotize, goes to the Ice Kingdom and hypnotizes Ice King, thinking that, and Ice King well, actually, does he even, I don't even think he gets hypnotized, actually. I think he just oh, no, he does. But yeah, she hypnotizes her, he gets hypnotized by the Empress, and then the Empress uses Ice King just to kind of hang around the Ice Kingdom, and then actually take on Marceline and Finn. So Finn and Marceline try and help out, but eventually the Empress is taken down. But it's a relatively simple episode. It was kind of manipulating Ice King, which is a little sad to see. I don't like that much. But yeah, like I said, it was a pretty enjoyable watch, honestly. But I think this one, these first 3 here on this, the first 8, 7, and 6, were all kind of ones that were not really like filler, but just kind of the unimportant episodes. They were like there's like one little story that we can talk about with these vampires, and this falls under that same category, obviously, as it is number 7. So that is why it is number 7. It's just because it's kind of like one of the simpler episodes. Same thing with number 6, which we will get into right now. Number 6, just like I was saying, it was a very simple episode. It is Part 5, May I Come In? Out of all the simple episodes, I think that number 5, or Part 5, was the better of all of them. And this one had the Hierophant, who was able to like change his body into different animal parts, I think it was. But this one I think was the most interesting because also Lumpy Space Princess was another hero in this episode and tried to help out. I thought it was very funny how they used the whole thing that vampires can't walk into houses without being invited in. And when they all went into Jake's just like not shapeshifted, but he stretched into a house so that everybody can get in. But sadly, the Hierophant was unable to, so that's kind of how they defeated him, was they were able to actually get him to go in, and he stepped in and then just died, and then Marceline was able to take his powers. But, yeah, like I said, May I Come In? It was a pretty simple episode. It was mainly like just them preparing for this fight against the Hierophant, and it was an interesting fight, if you think going into a house is interesting. But like I said, out of all 3 of these bottom ones here, the May I Come In, The Empress Eyes, and Take Her Back, this one I think was the most interesting, or at least the most enjoyable to watch out of all of them. So that is why it is at number 6. But now these top 5 that are left have some, like, pretty heavy story stuff to do about Marceline and vampires. For our number 5 spot, we have Part 3, Vamps About. Now, this one was kind of like basically the first couple episodes were about Marceline and just kind of her not wanting to be a vampire anymore, and this one kind of set the stage that Marceline was going to have to take down the other vampires who have shown up, because they're like, the five vampires from Marceline's past show back up, and they start kind of terrorizing causing some issues, and this is when we realize that this could be a pretty big threat with the Vampire King and his kind of entourage, I guess you could say. But basically, I think what really sells this episode for me was the ending, where Marceline actually but she confronted the Vampire King and was actually able to take down the Fool, which was one of the vampires. He looks like he was one of the weaker ones, and he mainly just kind of hung around the Vampire King, didn't really go off on his own or anything like that. But yeah, I would say this one, it was pretty good. Compared to the other ones, there were definitely better ones. But this one just kind of like set the stage for what the rest of the miniseries was going to be, and just kind of showed off some pretty cool stuff with vampires. And yeah, I guess the Vampire King has some weird obsession with cows and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. Or horses. Was it horses or was it? No, I think it was a cow. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, honestly. I think there was another episode in here. Wait, was this the one with the back? I don't remember. Maybe this was it. Because what I'm trying to think of is there was an episode in Stakes that had some background information on Marceline when she was younger, and I don't think it was this one, but maybe. Oh wait, was this the one where she fought? Yeah, okay. So I think this one had some background or some backstory information on Marceline, and she actually fought the Vampire King, I think, in this episode, in like the back of something like that. I don't remember it completely clearly, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. There was some sort of flashback moment in this episode, but like I said, this is also where they took down the Fool, and there was also this great moment in this part where Jake was trying to identify what. Or Peppermint Butler was drawing what Jake was describing for to describe the Vampire King and what he looks like and all the other vampires in the entourage, because Jake was able to actually see them at one point, and this is kind of how we began. And that was a very just funny moment, honestly. It was just Jake messing around at this point. But yeah, number 5, part 3, Vamps About. That's where it belongs. All right, for number 4. We have Stakes Part 1, Marceline, the Vampire Queen. Yeah, I thought Part 1 was pretty good. It was a pretty good, beginning to the series, I guess you could say. But I think Part 3 was more of like the actual beginning for the series. But basically Marceline decided that she doesn't want to be a vampire anymore, and Princess Bubblegum sets up a machine to try and help her achieve the goal of not being a vampire anymore. And that's a pretty big thing. We've spent, what is this? Season 7, so like 7 solid seasons of having Marceline be a vampire. She's the Vampire Queen. And now she decides that she doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. Doesn't want to be the Vampire Queen anymore. And just wants to be a regular human. And now she's able to eat regularly and go in the sun and stuff like that. And all these different things, because now she's just doesn't have her vampire powers anymore. But yeah, this overall was just a pretty good start to the whole mini-series, and just kind of showing that this is a kind of like a separate storyline, but it's still pretty vital, or not vital, but very interesting overall when it comes to Adventure Time. So I would say that number 4 will be Stakes Part 1, Marceline, the Vampire Queen. Alrighty, we're going into our top 3 of Stakes. So for our top 3, number 3, we have Part 7, Checkmate. Now, this episode is the penultimate episode to like the finale of this miniseries, also season 7, I believe. This is also the finale of. But this episode, it was really good. This is basically like the whole group versus the Vampire King. But then eventually in episode 8, the Vampire King gets stronger, and then they have to fight him then. But this episode is mainly like Marceline, Princess Bubblegum, Finn, and Jake versus the Vampire King. Did I say Vampire Queen? I meant Vampire King in like his regular form. He, shows off some of his cool powers. Finn and Jake try to take him on. I don't think it really works too well. But Marceline is able to, fight him. But once again, it doesn't work too incredibly well. Actually, I think they beat him. but then something else happens at the end that causes a big issue. Which I don't remember if that was at like the end of this part or if it's at the beginning of part 8. It might be at the end of this part, but basically, I guess I can just say it because it's not going to matter. We're going to be in top 2 in like a quick second. But anyways, basically what happens is they have the Vampire King caught in like this, basically in this bucket, and he's all like vampire juice in this bucket. And then when they're at the wooden house, the shack, Peppermint Butler knocks over the bucket, I think. And then that's when the Vampire King actually is able to grow stronger and huge. And then that sets us up for part 8, where they have to finally take the Vampire King down. But like I said, number 3, part 7, checkmate. It was really good. But we'll move on to number 2 now. Number 2, we got Stakes Part 8, The Dark Cloud. This was the final episode of the series, and I would say a pretty great ending if I do say so myself, I should be saying. And, yeah, this one, the very ending where Marceline sings the Everything Stays song was very, very emotional. And the fight overall was pretty fun. I mean, basically what happens is, as I said with Part 7, a bucket of Vampire King's vampire juice gets knocked over. He grows insanely strong and is becoming like this giant dark cloud thing, and that's why that's why this episode is the finale and not him versus the regular Vampire King. It's him versus like a super strong Vampire King. I think Ice King came in. I know Marceline was kind of accepting that she maybe has failed, but eventually she, I guess comes to her senses and eventually accepts that she is a vampire and is able to take down the Dark Cloud, which is the Vampire King, and gain her ultimate vampire form. I don't even know what it was, but yeah, it was a lot of like Finn and Jake and Princess Bubblegum trying to take down the Dark Cloud or the Vampire King in his ultimate form, and then Ice King slowly kind of encouraging Marceline to accept that she's a vampire and go after the Dark Cloud or the Vampire King's ultimate form. But yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of fun. So now we'll move on to number 1, which you already know because there's only 8 parts, so there's only 1 left. All right, so our number 1 here on the Adventure Time Stakes episode ranking, we got Part 2, Everything Stays. Yeah, this one was really good, honestly. Basically, Marceline was tied to a windmill after episode 1, and then she just kind of goes through her past, and we get to learn a lot about Marceline when she was younger, when she was an adolescent, and how Simon, or Ice King, had to leave her at one point, and then she eventually just kind of grew up on her own. She fought vampires, she saved people, but people didn't really accept her because she was also considered a vampire. So it was, it was rough. And she still, even though she still saved them, she still was, kind of, people were against her because they still thought that she was going to hurt them. But we basically got this really cool storyline with this guy. Oh, man, what's his name? I know there was like they were like humans. They were regular humans, and they eventually grew, to be friends with Marceline, and Marceline helped fight the Vampire King while they tried to escape on their boat and everything. But overall, Everything Stays was just a really great episode for some background information on Marceline, and that is why it is number 1. Alright, so that was pretty much it for Stakes here. Well, and the next video will probably be Season 8, and then after that will be the next miniseries, which is Islands. So we still have a long ways to go for this episode ranking here, and I'm pretty excited because, again, I really enjoy making these ranking episode videos, and I want to try and keep this series going for as long as I possibly can. But yeah, that is Stakes. Stakes we just got Stakes out of the way, and like I said, we'll be moving on to Season 8, so if you enjoyed that video, like, comment, subscribe, comment, YouTube stuff, and then I will see you guys when I post the next video in the future. See you guys.